Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's TED Talk time. We're recording it on the Friday, and obviously it comes out on YouTube on the Sunday, but we're dual streaming now. So we stream on YouTube and also Twitch at the same time. So all of you guys who prefer YouTube, you can now watch it on YouTube, the live streams and all of that stuff. So overall, pretty cool. The Tech Talk is a weekly podcast, and we basically just look through the comments of the previous Tech Talk. If you have any discussion points or questions or thoughts, put them in the comment section and then we'll get to them the next week. You know how it goes. Like, it works pretty good. It's been really fun to do this, and also this week has been really positive. Started out a new workout regime, going very heavy on the weights, which has been really nice. And also, even though there hasn't been a lot of stuff in War Thunder kind of going on, like it's been a dull week, it's been quite nice to get out a bunch of videos that I usually don't do, which are more like thoughts videos or looking at general idea videos. For me, that's really good, so I'm happy with that. Really happy with that setup. So let's get into the comments. By the way, we're going to be playing Men of War 2 over like the next period of time. Men of War 2 is coming out, I think, in about a week. So if you want to see any gameplay of it, you can check the live stream tab on YouTube, because I'm going to be streaming a decent chunk of it while also doing all of the War Thunder events and everything like that too. So it is going to be a busy time for me, but a very positive time, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's get into the first comment, and it is from Away With You, Val Beggar. Hello, Tech, and happy Easter again, because we celebrated this month. Yeah, I've always found it a bit odd. Like, the Easter's one of those where, depending on where you're from, you obviously celebrate it at different times. The Easter's just all over the place. Like, it's one of those which is the fact that it moves around never has made me feel, great at the end of the day. So it's just how it goes, which is just kind of sad, but it is how it is. Well, the whole point of the streaming experience, Dragon Boy, is to chat to you guys. Like, that's the part that I really enjoy out of it. So, like, we've talked about streaming before, right? Like, streaming for me. Hey, Soffersberg, nice to see you. Streaming for me is literally like being in a coffee shop and just having like a table of people and just like chatting and going around and stuff. Is this Q&A or something? This is a tech talk. So what we do a tech talk every week, and it's a place where the community can put in their questions or thoughts in the comment section of the previous one, and it's a way of getting general stuff out, right? And it's a way of giving you guys a voice on the platform, which I think is the super important thing, because at the end of the day, the ideas and community thoughts are always interesting to go through. So anyway, I'm glad you made the connection with RTS games when it came to the AT lines meme. It kind of reminded me of that one FPS game where you could actually have one player become the commander. You could see the map from above RT site, give orders and deliver ammo, medkits, turrets, etc. It's the one with the aliens, but I forgot the name. I know exactly the one you're talking about. They did it also in Battlefield. Maybe one of you guys will remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it either. The main thing I remember about that game is, unfortunately, that was one which was torched by people abusing the code systems. So the development house behind that game had to shut down because so many people were using sites like G2A and also using sites like game code sites to be able to get around regional pricing. So, and also what was happening to them is they were getting a metric ton of chargebacks because of the fact that people were using stolen credit cards to purchase the game. Then they would sell on the code, and then they would then afterwards basically refund the initial charge. So that development house went under. Unfortunately, it was one of the back in the day. It was a really cool, interesting game, and I hope that development house is still going. But yeah, there was this huge lawsuit between them and G2A and a few others because of the fact that basically because of G2A they got absolutely screwed. Let's see. If I can find it. Because it was just such a sad story. And it was many years ago. For a long time ago. But yeah, I don't know if I don't know if there's anywhere I'll be able to find it. But yeah, I do remember the game, but I just remember the horrific story as well. Now, I don't say we should add something like that, but it did remind me of the concept. Remove the abilities from everyone and add them all to the commander. As you can see, it's very historically accurate, so it makes sense. I don't mind the idea of having a game mode, which is... I mean, you could even do it as a competitive game mode, right? So you could turn off markers, you could turn off everything, and then just have one guy who can, like, kind of feed information to people and... you know, use abilities to be able to see where people are, or maybe smoke screen in places and things. Like, for me, it sounds pretty good. I think of this next suggestion as more of a thought experiment, since I'll give the roots of the ideas to see if... oh, these are just pillboxes? Oh, Jesus. I haven't played on this map before, or I haven't played in a long time. I got no idea what this map is. Thoughts of experiments, since I'll give the roots the ideas to see if anything good could realistically come of it at the end. Always a classic. Alright, there we go. Let's see. Number 1, the AA guns. Let's see. So I was thinking if there is any good way to add the physical artillery AA guns somewhere between the spawn and airfield with the idea like this. The AA guns will be somewhere behind the spawn and will be inactive until a player activates them. They're destroyable and would respawn on a cooldown. This could be a new ability that you can activate for a few seconds like Arty. The targeting should not be OP, but fair. An alternate ability to Arty, aka to choose... you choose one or the other before choosing the vehicle. Have the A as a selectable, let's say 50p standard vehicle, like the drones, where you take control of the guns and switch between, like we did in the Sturm event. My thought here was to at least deter reckless casts and give people in an endangered or heavies or anything without an MG a chance to survive, at least near the spawn. I generally think, like, you could probably make something like that work. The only thing I don't like about that is it's straight up taking onus away from the, like, put it like this. If you add that thing in, I never bring an AA into my lineups, right? Because I would just click the AA stuff to kind of keep me alive. The other thing is you could maybe use it for other things like scouting, which would be kind of annoying, but that would just depend on where it's all set up. I don't mind the idea. I think overall there is a problem, especially at the mid tier with a lot of vehicles, where they don't have a way of being able to, you know, stop gas, like just annihilating them. But the way I've always found, or a bit of a more eloquent solution than adding in like this huge setup, would actually be to just have a setup where you add machine guns to tanks, which is something that they did, right? Like it's something that they set up a long time ago, and they started doing with like Japanese vehicles and a few other vehicles, and then they just stopped, and I don't really know why, because I thought that actually was quite a nice little solution to these things, but yeah, it just stopped happening for some reason. What do you think about the new event, Yak 3, by the way? The R40 with 70-second turn time, not too bad. I mean, the Yak 3 turns very well, but the stat cards lie to you when it comes to that stuff, so don't worry about what the stat card says. But yeah, it'll be a completely fine plane, and it'll do very well. Like, it's one of those which isn't flashy, but will do exactly what it needs to do, and people will enjoy it for that. Alright, there we go. 2, the Arty would be a physical entity on the map that will do nothing by itself, but would offer a target to anyone in a plane, since if they go and destroy it, your team would lose the ability to call for Arty's sport until it respawns in, let's say, a minute. My thought process was to give cast players another objective besides bombing and give a reason for people to actually care about playing AA, but the idea, as you can see, is in its infancy since I came up with it on the spot and comes with obvious frustrations for the team. I mean, I'm always a bit worried about mechanics being lost, based on, you know, people destroying things on a map. Like, there's a reason why for me, I like RTS stuff and I like things like that, but I don't marry it with War Thunder. I generally think that War Thunder is very separate from RTS stuff, and if you wanted to marry the two things together, you'd have to change up the game, or you would have to change up a lot of the ways that all these things work. I don't think adding AI targets solves this, because people would just straight metagame it, especially if you use specific vehicles. So I wouldn't want to try and solve it in that way, because I don't think it would solve it. That's probably the best way of putting it. The main thing is to make instead of adding extra factors in to consider, it's much better just to use the factors we already have to fix the thing, right? We already have all the ways to fix CAS. You know, we have SB cost. Very easy to balance by that. You know, you just work out which is the most popular, the most problematic over periods of time, and then just do a shifting change to SP cost to all those vehicles. Try and promote other ones and see what happens, right? And then at the same time, giving people access to more AAs in their tech trees so they actually spawn them, which is something that's helped quite a lot with many of the different vehicles. That one has been a very positive thing to do, and it's been nice to see that it actually works. But like, you can add more and more and more factors onto it, but the other thing is you can lead a horse to water but not make it drink. So if you add all of these extra things, you're hoping that your teammate plays in specific ways or plays in the correct way to be able to stop this stuff. And 9 times out of 10 in War Thunder, they won't, which is not great. Hey Josh, and nice to see you, Jake. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully life's okay. So yeah, it's one of those things which I would rather they just use the factors we already have, because it would be very easy to solve the issues, but for some reason we live in a world where that's not the case. Can't turn with a wing like that, unfortunately. But yeah, like they could easily add stuff like that in if they wanted, but the question is, you know, would people enjoy it? I mean, maybe. People would probably end up metagaming it somehow, but that's not a huge issue, like, because people do that anyway. So like, I don't feel worried about something like that. That's probably the way to put it. So yeah, I'd be fine with it. I think it would be good. You could at least try it, but I would rather have them be proactive towards trying to actually fix the things with the current systems in the game, right? Evening, Penguin Red. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing all right. What are your thoughts on the Italian tech tree for groundcast? I'm thinking of grinding it, but always heard people talk about how it sucks. I'm also not sure how much growth it has. I usually play high tier. Well, 9-0 Italy ground is very good. 9-3 is pretty decent. 9-7 is nice, and 10-3 is nice. You don't have a top tier lineup, but that's fine. You don't need it. There are CAS elements there. G91s are pretty powerful. F84s. They now have the IL-10 and the TU2. They also have Reggianis with bombs. Their CAS is fine. It works well. Good superiority fighters, which is nice. Maxwell did the timestamps, so thank you to Maxwell for doing them, getting them all sorted. It's very kind of him, since it does take a lot of effort to do them, so thank you very much for sorting them out. Then we have Roy King. Hey Tech, hello. I think that ground could do with some attention as far as research rewards. I've ground out the coupon upgrade for the most recent Air and Ground events. the YAG, and the Chinese thing. For both events, I played only vehicles from one tech tree spading my way up. German air and US ground. For the aircraft, I went from 7.0 to top tier, spading every vehicle during the event with no problem. For the tank event, I only made it from 5.7 to 8.3. Right, let's do that. From 5.7 to 8.3, spading every vehicle, despite doing better than I did in air. It's much more difficult to spade things in ground. I think there should be some attention given to the rewards for ground AB at the higher echelons of the game, especially when it's important to have spaded or at least upgraded vehicles to be successful in ground. As far as solutions, I think they could lower the total mod cost for vehicles by around 10 or 20% and keep rewards and vehicle RP costs the same. Hey Greg, nice to see you. I am ready for the Men of War 2 experience. It's going to be fun. We're going to be playing it soon after the tech talk. Good afternoon, Marlo. Nice to see you too, William and Hannah. And also Carlos. Hopefully you're doing good. But basically, so ground rewards have always been worse than air rewards. And it comes from a fundamental belief that Gaijin has talked about in the past. And this belief is that it is easier for a person to get a kill in ground than it is in air. Like, literally, that's what it comes from. Now, obviously, this is going to be good for some people and bad for others, depending on what they play and depending on how they kind of fit in War Thunder and how everything goes. But I think it is, at least for me, easier to get a kill in ground than it is in air. Like, there's more kills that are usually around the place, especially in air realistic. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that, you know, ground players should be punished because of the fact that the game mode is set up like that, right? I do honestly think they went in the right direction when it came to a lot of the research changes they made last year and also will make this year. You know, giving people skill bonuses and also at the same time hopefully bringing in that whole, you know, researching certain vehicles in certain trees gives you opportunities in other trees. I think that's really good and really important, and it's really nice to see. But the problem is there will always be this difference between the two modes, which means that it's easier to get kills in one than the other. Like, if you compare ground realistic to air realistic, in air realistic, like, obviously we're in arcade, but you have, what, 16 versus 16? Or 12 versus 12 most of the time? Now, people only spawn once. And also, there's a lot more, like, AI targets around the place. So, if you, as a person, decide to... Like, a good game in air realistic is, like, 3 kills, right? Like, 3 kills, 4 kills, 5 kills, 6 kills, very hard to get a lot of the time, right? But 3 kills or 4 kills, that's a really good game. In ground, to do well, you're looking at 7, 8, 9... maybe even more, to be able to carry a match, because once again people just have more respawns. So the idea is each action in air is worth way more than it is in ground, because there's a lot more limited resources for each team. So that's why it's different, and that's why it's always been different. It's out of the game modes, air has always been the easiest to grind, right? Because you don't actually have to fight people if you don't want. You could do the PvE stuff and kind of grind through, like, hit bases, hit, you know, ground targets. You don't actually have to fight, which is, you know, for a lot of people that makes it a lot easier. Like, if you play like High Biaz, you'll see a bunch of, you know, like, people just grinding with, like, the F4S, for example, right? And just doing all that stuff and you know, hitting these things like that. And yeah, it's one of those things which means it's easier to grind because your actions are worth more, but also because there's that element. In ground, you don't have any of those. And because of the fact you don't have any of those, I would also advocate for ground to get higher rewards. Because you don't have a way of, like, hitting a base in ground, right? You don't have a way of... you don't have PvE content to be able to grind through, which, you know, that's what a lot of people use for stuff like that. So for me, I would actually argue that yes, an individual kill in air is a lot harder to get than in ground, just because of how it's all set up. But there are so many secondary factors in air, which mean it's easier to grind with a lot of vehicles compared to ground. So I would increase the rewards from ground, basically. Naval I find very easy to grind, but that also could be a mindset thing, because for me, I don't really focus on that. I just turn up and shoot things, right? And you know, that might be, as I said, that might be just like one of those things where, you know, it's just me playing this way and doing this stuff. Woo! So yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'd increase the ground awards. Simple as. Too many players in ground, know every inch of the map. Casual ground players are food. Well, in air, everybody knows the maps too. Like, that's the thing. It's not a point of view. It's the truth. It is much easier to get a kill in ground than it is air, because there are more targets available for you. Right? That's literally the equation. Right? In air, you only have 12 or 16 targets at most, and a bunch of them are going to crash into the ground, or they're going to get killed by AI stuff, right? In ground, you have 30, 40 targets, right? All of differing, like, types, you know? So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Hey, War Thunder Gaming, nice to see you. Well, if you create a new account, make sure to put 2-factor authentication on it. 15 kills is the average amount to get a nuke? Yeah, probably. Or, I mean, it depends if you're playing a light tank or what, right? But yeah, the main thing is they should increase rewards for ground. Whether it is through, like, more skill bonuses, like they've been doing, or whether it is through, like, the roadmap stuff, or whether it is just flat out his more, you know, stuff for a kill. What I honestly think would be fantastic if they did it was if they did a setup where you got more, and I think they already have this, but I mean, like, expand it more, so you get more rewards for doing kind of your role. So, for example, a light tank would get more rewards for capturing zones and scouting. A AA would get more rewards for destroying aircraft. An SPG would get more rewards for destroying medium or heavy tanks. A medium tank would get more rewards for destroying mediums or lights. A heavy tank would get more rewards for, you know, taking damage, or being able to hinder, you know, people moving around, or just general kills. You know, like, things like that. I think they should definitely promote and should push forward. Then we have Ben McCoy. A World War One plan and tank tech tree could be a route, like World War One to 1920. Not really, because not enough. Like, when you actually have a look at the First World War, and you have a look at how many vehicles there actually were, especially from a tank point of view, incredibly limited discussion. Incredibly limited discussion. Right? And that is just no use. You have serviceably maybe 10 tanks, right? Maybe. And then they have to go up against stuff which would be a lot better than them. It's just untenable. It just wouldn't work. Which is why, like, I'm all good with the whole, you know, if you want to bring in, like, World War One air or naval, I think it's a good idea, you know, because there's a lot of cool stuff. But if we're talking about ground, no, it's never gonna work. What you do, as I said, is you do an individual event. That event is the first tank battle. You do the Mark 4 or the Mark 6 or whatever it is. You do that, and then you do it against the German machine. Was it the A7E or whatever it is? And that's it. And then you make them both hangar decorations. You can't do anything else. There's too many limited options. And once again, you got to think of the fun factor. These vehicles are historical pieces, which is really cool, but they're not fun to play. Which is why every game that's been based around them has died or just stopped development, which isn't like, a more strategy-focused game. Then we have Dopies, I'm guessing is what you say that. Europeans want World War One, Americans want Korean War. Neither of them would make money. Ah, that's a really good comparison, actually, dog. Yeah, that's true. The interesting thing is when Enlisted started adding more campaigns, there was this huge push from people to add the bloody Korean War. And the question always was, and still is, why do you think nobody makes Korean War games? And the simple thing is nobody knows about the Korean War. It's the forgotten war. Like, there was a lot of nations who were involved in it. No, like, if you ask the average person or even the average gamer, they have no idea why the Korean War was fought. They have no idea what was involved when it comes to like vehicles or anything like that, and they have no idea like what happened. When World War II, it's literally, Nazis versus other people, and Japan versus other people. Like it's very simple. With Korea, it's a little bit more complicated, and also just not taught in schools. So yeah, for some reason there's this idea that would actually be a good pick, and it just wouldn't. So just one of those things once again. Yeah, the Korean War would not be a good pick. Oh, goddamn. For anything, really. Hey TEC, hope you're doing well. As someone who's a veteran of War Thunder, you might know why is team killing allowed in Air RB but not in Ground RB. It only makes playing Air RB less enjoyable and more toxic. The basic reason is the amount that it happens. In Ground RB, what people would do is they would spawn in and just nuke everybody, right? And also at the same time, what they would do is if somebody was doing really well on a team, they would just blow them up. So they could get, research points, or they could get whatever. So it was creating an environment which is very rough during the beginning parts, and also it was a lot easier to kind of destroy people back then. So, I was taught the Korean War in school. Is it not taught in other nations that aren't America or Korea? Yeah, it's not taught at all. I had a pretty decent education, like when I went to school, not one mention of the Korean War. If you have a look at like the syllabuses around the place, at least from the nations that I've seen, like Canada, France, Canada, France, Britain, and Germany, which is the three areas which I looked into, which are, some main players in education. None of them had any references to the Korean War, apart from in certain political classes, which you do when you're like 17 or 18. And it's more about how did the Korean War actually become to be, right? It isn't taught at all, because why would it? Like it didn't affect a lot of countries, and also it happened a few years after one of the major conflicts of the world, which is proper to focus on, like it's just not taught. But yeah, so when it comes to team killing in Air RB as well, one of the things, especially at high tier, you have to remember, in order to team killing ground, you can actually do it, by the way. You can bomb people and they will die on your team. You can artillery strike them, so you can actually do it. You just can't directly shoot them in the face. And the basic reason is in air, if you try and light up somebody, but an ally is in front of you, that is a direct thing that is supposed to stop you firing, right? But a lot of people don't, so they just cripple the person in front of them. But think about missiles, okay? Let's say on my machine I have 6 missiles, And let's say the bees around the honeypot meta continues forever, which it will because players just want quick action, right? So they'll just, right? If I am not worried about team kills, and if I am not worried about setting stuff up proper, I just fire all my missiles at anything that I come across. I don't care what is targeted or locked. I just chuck them into that area, right? No holes barred. It doesn't matter. So you've just removed that part of the skill of working out what to hit and what not to hit, right? Because you just throw everything everywhere. And also the fact is, team killing in RRB, I know it gets a lot of coverage when it happens, and I know that there are YouTubers out there that promote it, which is very negative. Like there was a trend of people straight up just breaking the TOS in War Thunder, like to do like specific videos, like, hey, this is my free-to-play account, guys. Isn't that really cool? Not really, because you're breaking the TOS to make it, but sure. And then, or hey, look, I spawned in on the enemy airfield, guys. How crazy is that? And then they just swap the colors at the top of the screen, you know, like stuff like that. So, yeah, not entirely positive, but at the same time, the amount it actually happens is very low compared to what people think it is, right? It's one of those things which is highly reported on because when it happens, it's really annoying. Just like when you have like a cheater in your game, but the amount of people it actually influences is very small. Like when I played Realistic all the way through, you know, the last event, all the way through the winter event, the summer event last year. We're playing it again, like now, grinding out the Hungarian stuff like we did yesterday. I haven't seen a single team kill, right? But yeah, sometimes you had bad faith actors, and yes, they need to be punished. But that also happens in ground 2, where if people get in the way of others, once again, if people just bomb people, like, you can team kill in those things. In Naval, you can do... I don't think in Naval you can do that, but I'm not sure. Hey, Gingerbread, nice to see you. But yeah, the Korean War just isn't taught. I wasn't even in school until A-level. I wasn't taught about the Vietnam War. And still wasn't really, once again, like the part that was taught about the Vietnam War was actually, once again, the political side of it, which was like, why were people dissatisfied with America being in Vietnam? It wasn't about the war itself or what was even involved. That's just not what happened. So it's just how it goes. So then we have Jerry. Hello, Mr. Tech. I have an idea for the Battle Pass. When a Battle Pass is coming to an end, you'll be given the option... Yeah, let's just do that. I just need to plug in one of these vehicles here. There we go. I have an idea for the Battle Pass. When a Battle Pass is coming to an end, you'll be given the option to extend the time of the current Battle Pass instead of going to the next one. If you choose this option, you of course won't be able to do the next one. Also, one of the dumbest things I've heard someone say is that they have separate War Thunder accounts for ground and aviation. I did meet a person back in the day who had separate War Thunder accounts for each nation. And my first question was, why? And he said that he did it because he doesn't want to, like, cross-pollinate anything. And then I realized that the autism spectrum is quite wide, and maybe that makes sense. Hey, Mr. Jedi, nice to see you. Like, to him. So, yeah. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. You know, maybe you could extend it for a week or two. You know, not too long. Would be a good idea. I think in general, I wouldn't be against that. The only thing I would like is for stuff to be reoccurring in the Battle Pass, in terms of vehicles. So, finding a way of bringing back Battle Pass vehicles instead of moving on to the next ones would be cool. Hey Terminator, nice to see you. Or maybe per year you have like an event which is like a recap event, and you can get one of the old vehicles that exist. I think that'd be kind of cool. And we have the next one. So we have House of Schmidt. Regarding the 16v16 discussion, I've talked to players who like it and dislike it, but very few seem to like it as is. That's because people prefer change to the standard. People don't like standard stuff, right? If you actually want to see a great example of this, we had one very recently when it came to War Thunder, which is when they proposed changing the damage mechanics to add in a stun mechanic into the game. If you have a look at the media and if you have a look about the chat around a lot of those things, what people are looking for is change. They don't know why they don't know what change they want, but they just want change. That's how you get a lot of people voting for even very negative mechanics, because they just want to see something different. And that is very dangerous, right? That idea right there is very, very dangerous, and you've got to be super careful with stuff like that, because it happens all the time in games. People get sick of whatever the meta is, and they want things to move, they want things to adapt and change. And that can either be really positive, or it can be really negative, right? So you've got to be careful. Also, a War Thunder poll with 10k votes showing players want smaller teams is a huge cross-section of players, more representative than any political poll. You have no idea how representative it is. You have no idea how many people play. You have no idea how many of those players even play top tier. You have no idea how many players actually are even actively playing at that time. That could be a completely astroturfed poll. You have absolutely no idea what that means, right? And there is no way of knowing. That could be 10,000 people who haven't played War Thunder in 5 years, who are once again just those people looking for a change. This could also be a bunch of people who play mid-tier stuff all the time and don't actually play high-tier stuff, right? This could be a bunch of people who just watch videos and don't actively play the game and are just following what people are saying in those videos, which is something that happens a lot when it comes to War Thunder. So it's not representative of anything, because you don't know what the source is of any of it. Yeah, it's confirmation bias, just straight up. You are looking at a number on the screen and going, these guys agree with me, therefore it matters. No, it doesn't. You don't know how many people actively play War Thunder, you don't know how many people actively play top tier, and you don't know how many people, or you don't know the percentage of people in this poll that do both of those things. It's impossible to know, which is why polls on the internet are as useless as political polls. And one of the things about political polls that have been found over the last 5 to 10 years is a lot of them are garbage. And they aren't representative. So, yeah, it's a waste of time. But the players that like 16v16 as is are usually newer and like it because they can grind vehicles faster. Other than them, I hear 2 camps. You've just completely made that up. Right? You've just made that up. You don't know how many... Right, hi. I'm a player of 10 years or 11 years now. I'm not a new player, okay? I am actually very good with 16v16. Because it means at the mid-tiers, you have fuller games. You have more things going on. And it's not because of the fact that it's easier to grind. It's just the simple fact that the way that the maps are set up now, they're designed for 16v16. They're designed for the middle fight, and they're designed for people, you know, attacking each other from different angles. Right? That's it. Right. Other than that, I hit 2 camps. 1, reduce team size on the current map, or keep 16v16, but adjust maps and airfields to spread players out more. You're not going to spread players out more. We've been trying to force people to play the game in a certain way for a very long time. They don't do it. Right? They just do what they want. You have to look at what they do and adapt to what they do. You cannot force them to do things because they just leave. We've seen this many times in many different games. It's one of the problems that Mana Lords has right now. The reactive changes to things. To me, these two camps are asking for the same thing, less player density. Yes, because that's what you want, and that's all you see. We talked about this last time. Try and picture it from the other side. Hey, Krajiznik, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. So what am I missing? Do we just have 16v16 on smaller maps to cater to newer players, or to just grind planes for use in ground? If so, this approach seems unhealthy, and there should be better ways to balance RRB without forcing upper tier RRB to play like Air Arcade. Most of the higher tier maps at this moment in time are large maps. They're the maps which were tested in EC and they've been brought over to RRB because they're larger and therefore they are able to cater to the aspect of semi-actives and actives and all that shit, right? The whole point was to actually spread out the games. If you make the maps bigger, right, you also have to increase the amount of players. The reason why you increase the amount of players is so there are actions going on the map, right? So, if you haven't noticed, when it comes to War Thunder, they have made a lot of changes to top tier maps, right? They've also left in a lot of smaller maps, because that's what players like playing. And Gaijin has to follow what players like playing. So, the idea is if you have a larger map, you have the same map density as you did previously with 12 versus 12. But nobody realizes this, because they're stuck in this idea that we have to go back to whatever it was previously. Even though the idea from day one when it came to Gaijin was to make it 16 versus 16. I will repeat what I said last week. Look at the counter-arguments. What you've done here is you've just taken two arguments that line up with what you think and then just push them forward, right? Think about the actual counter-arguments to your point. There's no use in repeating the same things multiple times. So we have Striker. Hey TEC, no, not so long time no see. That sentence did my head in. Not so long time no see. I feel like I'm missing. That's not the usual thing, is it? Long time no see is what it is, right? I'd like to ask you to see if you can empty the box of realism junkies into the Discord/CDK communities. I used to be an R junkie as well, until I made and played the missions I wanted. They'll never replace the core War Thunder game modes, but it's still a chance to get some fun and unique experiences that cater to these types of players. Of course, each player community is different, so everyone should do their own peeking around to see what you like best. Thanks for the content and have a great weekend. I will do. Extra, even if a tiny portion of them actually tries it out, that will still be great. I was thinking about doing something like that. So, obviously, at the end of the day, there's been a decent chunk of people who have wanted more realistic stuff. And I thought about making some resource videos. So, obviously, we've done like the beginner's guides, War Thunder tips, stuff like this. And I think it's been really good to do. But one of the ones that I've wanted to do for the longest time, and just I haven't got around to because I've been working on other stuff. Like I wanted to do more like vehicle reviews this year, so I feel like I didn't really do too many last year. So yeah, but one of the things that'd be really cool to do would be to make a video which is like, okay, here's the resources you need for War Thunder. So here's like Chabby's data mines. Here is the general place where a lot of people discuss stuff when it comes to the forums. Here are the relevant discords for different areas. If you're into like mill simming, here's like those communities. If you're into simulator, here's like, you know, Wingling's Twitch, and also here's like community, you know, stuff like that. And I want to make those videos, but it is a lot of resources to get down. I would need to, it's one of those I have to collectively do over time to be able to do. So it will get done and it will get sorted, because I know there are a lot of communities out there that do enjoy doing the milsim stuff. They're just very small amounts of people. Usually when I've been involved in them, you're talking about like 10, 15, 20 people at most. And obviously a boost in their numbers would be very important. So yeah, that's something that we will do. It just depends on when that happens. Then we have your Mandavi. Needs to be optional. Feel like you want to play 16v16, tick a box, and there you go. No, it should be the other way around, actually. It should be the 16v16 is standard, and then if you don't want to play 16v16, you can play lower. Or, as I said, you can... you can get... you can just play other modes, which give you that. But yeah, like, sure. Just treat it like night battles. Treat it like the red-headed stepchild. If you want to play it, you know, if you're part of that small minority of people who want to do it, then you can tick the option on. If you've ever played night battles or top tier, by the way, goddamn, that one's rough. But yeah, that would be a way of doing it, right? Like, that would be a way of sorting it out, so therefore it was fair to all parties. Give people the option, and then move on. And also, as I said, which is something that I've, once again, been noticing, which nobody ever brings up when it comes to these things, as I said, how about we trade this? You get an option to play 12 versus 12, but also they fix the bloody matchmaking in air. So you can't dump squads on one side of the matchmaker and not the other. I had a game yesterday. We had one squad on our team. The enemy had 6. You know what's hilarious? The 6 squad has lost. But still, you have 6 people, or 6 squads, so at least 12 people on a side. There was even more, it was like 14 out of the 16. That was squadded up. Right? How about we fix that first? If we fix that, because, hey, Naval has fixed that. Ground has fixed that. Why don't we fix it in aviation? Why do I never hear people talk about that? Is it because you want to abuse people in smaller matches? Or is it because you just like the pleasure of doing it? What is it? I'd like to know. Why does that never get brought up with these things? Because it's just something that is there, which if you actually fixed, would mean we can even have a discussion about these things. But unfortunately, it's been there since day one. And it's just unfair to anybody who wants to play against it. I don't want to play in matches where it's just full-on squads, which you can queue up at the same time with the same vehicles, on the same side, against people who aren't. That's it. Fix that, and then we can start having these dumb discussions. Hey, Peter the Great, nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Darius. Happy Friday. Hopefully you're doing good. Alright, so then we have Adam Kozak. Hi, TEC. What are your thoughts on the upcoming MiG-23 nerfs that are meant to be for realism, not really balance? Yet there are planes like the MiG-21 that there are many bug reports and documents that should pull harder, and also the MiG-29 that should pull even harder than the 21, yet nothing changes. Also pretty scummy in some countries. Illegal to change something you bought, like the hundreds of people with the MiG-23 ML. Well, I mean, I hope... End-user license agreements and terms of services exist. It's worth reading them. The other thing to also mention is if you feel like you are in a country which protects your consumer rights in that way, I would love you to try and sue Gaijin. I think it would be a good idea, and it would send a great precedent across the community. At the same time, there is a reason why they have never been sued in this way successfully. So I would definitely say you should go for it. Anybody should do it. Number 2. Stuff getting bug reported and then being acknowledged and then passed to the devs does not necessarily mean that they will enter the game. What that means is a technical moderator has decided what you have put down on paper is something to be considered. And therefore a developer will look at it, consider that, plus every other resource that he has on hand, and work out whether the change should come through. Okay? Hey Sarge Moon, nice to see you. So, until those changes come in, we can't really discuss them. Because there's been a lot of things that have been acknowledged, and also passed to the devs, that haven't come in. The Challenger armor changes, the Abrams armor changes, and many other vehicles get passed to the devs, but nothing happens with them. And then you get articles like you did for the Abrams or the Challenger, where they talk about the fact that, yep, we see all of these resources that you've sent us, we've read them, here's all of these sources which say the complete opposite, right? So since that's the case, with like this setup, I would wait to see what happens with that. We haven't had a change log in War Thunder for like a week or two. So we haven't had any changes of that nature for quite a while. So I wouldn't worry until those changes come in. I don't like to focus on changes like that until they're actually made true. And so therefore I don't really want to discuss it. At the same time, it's also apples versus oranges. The idea of looking at two separate vehicles and looking at the different sources for it and working out what things should be and what things shouldn't be, it's a bit of a mess a lot of the time. And especially when you have a look at, different ones. Once again, if you feel like a vehicle should be changed, if it's not acting historically, then of course bug report it. And then leave it down to the technical moderators to acknowledge it or pass it on or whatever. But understand, until we're at the point where that comes into the game, it's not even worth discussing. I would honestly say, as usual, do not get gaslit by things that are not in the game yet, right? Because there's a lot of things that get acknowledged or get pushed in and don't end up coming to the game. Hey Zero, nice to see you. Happy Friday. Hopefully you're doing good. Like, I don't like talking about upcoming nerfs because we don't know what's going to happen until it happens. So let's just wait for the changelog and see what happens. And then we'll discuss it. Hey Gator Green Gladiator, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hey Dcast, nice to see you too. Alright, hello Tech, hope you're doing well. I'm alive, I'm kicking, doing okay. First things, hope the pup's doing well. Yeah, AJ's fine. I think he's doing good. He's being AJ, I think is probably the way to put it. He's been itching a little bit, but that's just because of the change of weather. It's getting hotter over here, so it's gonna be interesting the next little bit. We need a screen appearance from him. We never got his opinion on anything in the last tech talk. I mean, that's fair. 2, you look like you lost a few pounds or stone. Oop, 2 seconds. The missus is calling. Hello? Sorry, just sorting some stuff out for the weekend. You look like you lost a few pounds or stones or whatever you guys up north measure things. Keep it going. You lost 80 pounds once, then I found it again. Well, so recently I've just been doing a lot of weight training. So I've just been converting muscle into, not muscle into fat, fat into muscle. My heaviest I was, which was like 4 years ago now, or 5 years ago, was like, I was about 345 pounds, which was pretty up there. Like when you think about it. Like I've always been a big dude, but that was pretty crazy. Dropped to 209 at my lowest, and now I'm sat around 220, 225. And my like natural weight, which I've always felt the most comfortable in, is £240, surprisingly. And so we're working our way up there and getting to that point again. So basically just through muscle. And yeah, I feel very good. I feel very strong, very powerful. On Tuesday, actually, we were having some work done to the place, and I ended up going for a walk around, where I live, and I just ended up walking like 10 miles without really realizing. And I finished it, and then I looked at like my Fitbit thing, and I was like, oh, well, that's kind of crazy, because I couldn't have even dreamt to that like 4 years ago. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's nice to be back in and feeling very good health wise, and I feel like I recently, I've been doing really good on that. Health wise has been really nice, and at the same time, what's also been very good is just getting back into full on weight training. I always feel much better when I'm working out and doing different stuff, so I'm very happy with it. It's very good. The faithful and 100% accurate league list kept mentioning the Canadian Leo and the LAV variant of every kind. As you know, Canada and the US both use the LAV. I for one think Canada needs its own subtree and maybe a jet, but not the F-18. If we get the F-18 Canadian version, I will go to Ottawa. I will do to Ottawa what Robert Ross did to DC. Only question is, what nation would that subtree go to? US, Germany, Britain? I'd hope US, but you know what they say. Shit in one hand, wish in the other. Thanks and have a good one. You too, man. Hopefully you have a good one. So I think in general, I would put the subtree in the British tech tree, just because of the fact that I don't think America needs as much help as Britain. I understand that South Africa is already there. Hey, Hollywood, nice to see you. Like, South Africa is already there in, the British tech tree, but America will never need sub-tech trees. Like, they'll always have vehicles. So I think they're probably setting up to just add a bunch of Canadian vehicles in, but I don't know whether it's going to be a subtree or event setup, because they have added a ton of random Canadian vehicles in the past, but they've always been premiums, or they've always been event vehicles, right? So I'm pretty sure it's going to be that. I would like it to be a subtree. I think it would be better. I think it would be better as a subtree, because that means that more people get access to it. But you know how this goes. Like, just because you want something doesn't mean it's gonna happen. But I think it would be a bit of a waste adding it to America, because even though they share a lot of the similar vehicles, would you rather have two tech trees with those different vehicles, or just one tech tree with those vehicles? And, obviously with those lineups too. For me, I think it's important to share the love, especially if they add in the research stuff that they're doing. So for me, I'm looking forward to the Canadian vehicles, but would prefer them to either be event stuff around the place or subtree for Britain. I don't think America needs them. Just like how I don't think Germany needs any subtrees, and I don't think the USSR needs them either. Then we have Miro Slant. Am I the only one who's getting super annoyed at the random sun placement? One match it's normal, and the other match it's shining directly at me, thus making it unable for me to see anything. I don't remember this happening a few years ago. Is this a new feature? Oh boy. No, it's not. It's been in the game since launch. Basically, that has been a common complaint for many years from people. The fact that the sun is favoring one side sometimes compared to the other. So basically what you have is the sun, like the way that the maps and I don't know what you class it as, but the horizon in War Thunder is actually made realistically. So they have a full lighting engine, they have a full like weather engine, they have a full setup when it comes to all of this stuff. And what they do is, you know, the map gets plugged into the thing at a certain time, and that's where the sun is. So this means if it's like an east-west map, and you know, the sun is going down or the sun is coming up, it screws you because you just can't see anything. And yeah, it's annoying, and I wish it wasn't the case. I wish they changed it so that wasn't like that. But at the moment, it is, and that's crap. Hopefully, in the future, they can change it, so it's not as egregious for people. But yeah, it's pretty rough. It's not too fun when it goes against you, and it just kind of creates an unfair fight. So yeah, not a huge fan. I would personally have made it so it was still there, it just didn't burn your retinas out. But I will also say there was a meme back in the day of the nuclear sun, and the nuclear sun was way worse than it was now. So it has got better over the years, but it still has been, you know, it's been there for many, many years around the place. So we have Charlie Harris. Why is Gaijin done a copy-paste of a Yak 3? That's what I can't understand, is why is Gaijin deciding to completely disregard unique vehicles for these events? Because when I look at the dev blog for the next event vehicle, I don't see unique vehicle. I see the same damn vehicle that you can get in the ordinary tech tree. It's slightly different, but I get your point, right? I mean, hell, I'd rather have the JU-187 Super Stuka. That is a vehicle which would be unique, will be worth having in War Thunder. And yes, I understand that the JU-187 was never built, but at that point, I don't really care. Either that, or you can give us another copy-paste vehicle for the next event. Think about it like this, okay? And this has always been the thing in my head. So, number one, they've coupled this event with Victory Day, right? So you want something that represents Victory Day. Now, in Gaijin's head, Victory Day is a Russian event, okay? Which is why, for the pages of history, every time we've done the Victory Day stuff, it has been the, what's it called? It has been like the flag guys. 3 years in a row, we've had the flag dudes at the Reichstag. We've had the two guys who, you know, hoisted the propaganda flag. And then we have the original guy who stormed the Reichstag with his team and was the first guy to show the flag at the top. Right? All Russians. So, what you want to have a look at is they want to tie in the event with that theme. So a JU-187 doesn't do that. Number two, which is the more important point, and the one that I've always like stuck with in my head. If you make something like a JU-187, or let's just say a really unique vehicle, right? Let's say, I don't know, something like the Whitley, or if you make something like the Defiant, or if you make something like the Covenanter, you know, some of these vehicles, if you make, or the Centaur, if you make those the unique vehicles, that means that you have to play during that period of time to get access to it. And if you don't if you don't play during that period of time, you can never get it again, especially if you're on console. Or you have to rely on gambling, right? You have to rely on gambling, or you have to rely on the Gaijin market to be able to get access to it. Now, for me, I would rather they did events which were less crazy unique vehicles all the time, because of the fact that I know that if you don't play in that 2-week period, you will never get access to that vehicle ever. And as somebody who has a bunch of event vehicles and people ask me all the time about them, and I have to turn around and go, well, you can't get them. There's no way of getting these unless you pay a ridiculous amount of money on the market. But if you're on console, you can never get access to them, right? And then if you actually have the only way you can get them is through loot crates. And hopefully you get lucky enough to be able to get it in a loot crate, which is designed for you not to get it. Or you could add those to the tech trees, or you could add them as squadron vehicles, or you could add them as premiums. And they're much more accessible to people, and more people can enjoy them. Right? That's the way I see this stuff. Do you want everything all the time to be fully unique? Because at that point, you're gonna hit a stage, and we're on year 11 of this happening, where now you have people who started the game 4, 5, 6 years ago, or even started today, who cannot get access to a huge amount of the game because they just didn't play earlier. And that, to me, sucks. That's crap. And since there are no other mechanisms, apart from gambling, to be able to get access to them, I don't want a ton of crazy unique stuff with events. I'd rather have stuff which is slightly different from the norm, but not insanely unique. Like the Object 292. It's a T-80 with a bigger gun. With, you know, less armor and also less secondary usage, right? That's cool. I like that. PLZ 83-130. It's a PLZ with a bigger gun. The Jaguar IS. It's a Jaguar with different ordnance options. These are not crazy unique vehicles. The Baden. Literally just the Bayern. None of these are unique, right? They're not unique at all. If anything, they're concepts which are based on other concepts. But for some reason, we see some as unique and not other ones. Why? I don't know. Because they have a different gun on them? Well, this Yak 3 has a different set of guns. But for some reason, we just don't, you know, we just don't see it as different. So yeah, I don't know. That's the problem right there. If you start putting more unique stuff in events, you limit the amount of people who can get access to them. So less people get to enjoy the unique stuff. You gotta somehow either add in a mechanism to change that, or I'm just never gonna be for it. Because I want people to get access to as much stuff as possible. And if that means events are Yak 3s with slight changes, or T-80s with slight changes, or Jaguars with slight changes, or ships with slight changes, and we add the more unique stuff to the tech trees, I am 100% for that. 100% for that. You know? Because that means that more people get access to them. And that to me is a win. That's why I'm curious about your opinion on my previous suggestion. Which one was that? Then we have Ben McCoy, World War I mentioned. Yep, we mention it quite a lot because it's one of those that's constantly brought up. Because there isn't a game which is based around World War I which is like this game. Which makes sense, but you know. So we have the only loon. Good day, Tech. Good day, sir. Hopefully you're doing good. Let's just get some bombs off here. Whoop. A bit too far one way. The one where War Thunder, they could add an event at the end of the year where you could exchange mission points collected throughout the year for vehicles that are no longer available. I mean, yeah, you could do that, but the issue is it hits their bottom line, right? I'd rather just a straight trade system. But yeah, a system like that I'd be fine with, but unfortunately they'd never do it, and that's what sucks. Hey, Abby, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Right, now that the event is concluded, man, having less points to grind was very nice. Now I have all 3 PLZ/PTZs in a lineup. I quite like bringing the Derpy 6.3 PLZ to 9.0, just bonking people, and another bonker is very much welcome. Also, its chassis is becoming one of my faves. It turns well, it accelerates quick, the gun handling and vertical aiming is pretty nice. Overall, I really like the package to run around in. I really like the chassis too on those vehicles. I don't like the targeting speed, but the chassis is nice. Surprisingly, I've grinded 95% of the events in sim mid-tiers. Bloody hell, what a refresher. Cast players are actually donkeys. I get to have actual really fun tank-to-tank combat without pesky mosquitoes ruining it. Yeah, pretty much. Top tier system is so wildly different, where helis and SU-25s are still on easy mode, so I've stuck around the mid tiers. Incredibly fun. The offset on the gunner's sight wasn't so molding, more so, it was very fun. Everyone gets to have donkey aim, making it more likely that we miss each other, making fights more engaging. Good fun, finally a mode where I don't get harassed by Cass every game. Anyways, have a good week. Ah, yeah, you too. Yeah, and you don't get harassed by Cass unless you play, as you said, certain parts of the sim. But yeah, that's always been the issue with it. But no, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. I played a bit of sim to get the achievements done, the Gaijin achievements, the Steam achievements recently, and it was okay. Like, I enjoyed it. It was quite nice. Like, I'm glad you're enjoying it though. And the real question is, with events like this, is how many people are going to use airsim to grind this event? Because they're probably going to be able to do it pretty quick. Yeah, you have a good week too, man. Thank you for the thoughts. So we have Todd Morgan. Been with War Thunder since the start. It's time to get back to what it was back in the day. From RB ground, remove kill cam, damage cam, make it visible only in replays. Stop adding new vehicles and crank out new and larger maps. Add new game modes with dynamic objectives. Rework RRB sim with a range of PvE missions mixed in with a PvP environment. Seed, knocking out bridges, inserting air bombers, etc. In short, expand the game and not the vehicle list. Take the training wheels off of RB and sim. They can remain for the arcaders. Sure, why not? I think I've talked about a lot of those before. So hey Juan, nice to see you. I think they're bringing in a lot of the seed stuff, aren't they? Pretty sure that was leaked a little bit ago. Whether it was for Gaijin's new game, which they're working on, or this game. Might be interesting to see. Looking forward to it. I think the reason why War Thunder changed over the years from what it used to be is because it fit players more. The problem with War Thunder back in the day is it catered to a very small amount of people, and in order to expand it to what it is now, you had to, of course, expand, the general things that you could do and the playstyles and yada yada yada. So, the thing is, we can't go back 10 years. Things adapt, things change, things push forward, and trying to bring back something that was changed because of the way that it was and because it wasn't as interesting to as many people as possible would probably be pretty negative for the game. So that's the problem. You could definitely add different things in there and try different stuff to try and supplement the content we have. But the idea of setting it up in a way that that you bring it back to a level of what it was before. When I played back then, when there was 6,000 people online, or like 10,000 people online during like the NA time, and only like 20,000, 30,000 during the European time, I don't think I'd want that, if I'm honest with you. Don't think I'd be a huge proponent. The other thing to also mention is when Ground launched, which was of course the earliest stage of Ground, the maps were tiny. You had Karelia, which was the old Karelia. You had Kuban, which was the old Kuban. You had Ash River, and there was another one which I can't remember. None of these maps were huge. They were actually very small. And there was no difference. If anything, the maps have actually got bigger compared to those maps. What's changed is the mobility of the vehicles, which, nobody wants to remove. Then we have Kakaprut. There are two problems in the 16v16. The concentration of objectives, spread the targets equals spread the targets. The poor variety of objectives. Where are the ships, trains, bridges? Just Give away 80 million lions to buy vehicles. Well, I hope you had a good time with the new vehicles that you got. There are many problems with each sets of sizes, whether it's smaller or whether it's larger. But people are not fighting around stuff like that. Like you could remove all of the PV objectives, right? So you could remove the bases, you could remove the tanks, you could remove all of that stuff. Do you think the players change the way that they play? Or do you think you've just neutered a bunch of vehicles in the game and they have no use? Because I don't think anybody changes. Because what has actually been interesting over the years is as they've added in more streamlined maps instead of the maps which we saw beforehand, which were incredibly unbalanced maps, like Hokkaido. Any map that if you just leave it to go, where one side just wins, because they just do, like by the way that the ground setups work, or whether it's like Berlin, where you could just like clatter the AI convoys in around about maybe 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, are not gonna work in how the game works now. But yeah, it's just how it goes. There is a bit of a disconnect in the discussion, but that's fine. There's always going to be something to complain about, and that's just how it goes. Oh yeah, Jungle was the other map, yeah. So yeah, 3 or 4 massive maps in the CBT going into the OBT. Ash River, Karelia, Kuban, and Jungle. You know, huge maps. All massive from back in the day. So then we have Jake, Birch, 10k sample size and a tier bracket and mode that only maybe 20 to 25% of the player base plays is pretty significant now. No, not at all, because you have absolutely no idea if they actually play that. I'm not sure Gadget releases player distribution, so I could be entirely wrong here. Yeah, you could be, but also the main thing you're actually wrong about is believing that everybody who voted on a poll plays that area. As I said, you have no idea who these people are. You have no idea if they stopped playing the game years ago. As I said, there's a bunch of people who watch my YouTube stuff and even come along to the streams, and they haven't played the game in years. And they just like watching it. Or they just like talking about it, or talking about like the old days, or you know, talking about how they want the game to change, which will bring them back, right? But none of those players actively play. So how do you know what is the percentage of that 10k who is actively playing at the highest tiers of the game? You don't know. You got no idea, which is why the sample size is worthless, because you don't know where the sample is from. This is basic statistics, like level 1 high school university statistics. Where is the sample size from? Who does it consist of? Can we verify it? No? Alright, toss it out. And once again, millions of players in the game. 10,000 is tiny. Millions of players. You know? Millions. 10k is a rounding error when it comes to these things. And I know that sounds awful, but it's just how it goes. And I'm sorry that that's how it is, but it is how it is, right? We ran into the same issue with the LATAM tech tree stuff. By the way, they released the LATAM aviation tech tree. Don't know if any of you guys saw it. You probably didn't, because it wasn't AstroTurfed on the forums. It didn't get 10k votes. But why? Because people really care about South African vehicles, right? Or sorry, South American vehicles, right? That's what I was told for weeks. Everybody cares about this tech tree. It's huge. You know, it has the most votes out of everything. Yeah, tech tree came out. There was like 700 votes on it. You didn't hear about it, did you? No, because it wasn't AstroTurf by YouTubers. Wow, crazy. Absolutely nuts. What a world. But yeah. some things you're not allowed to say. So there you go. But no, the basic issue, as I said earlier, you don't know who's voted on that poll. You don't know if they actively play. If they don't, you don't know if they even actively play those BR brackets. And also, at the same time, you don't even know if they play the game. Stuff like that, especially with online polls, gets massively astroturfed by exterior communities. Especially on YouTube. Because if you didn't know, on YouTube, there is a mechanism, right, where if you create a community poll, it will actually send out that poll to more people who are outside of your community to basically increase engagement on your channel. This is why, if you remember a year or two ago, when a lot of the random YouTubers popped up into the scene when it came to War Thunder, you know, all of the new wave YouTubers, all of the shorts guys, and all of the guys who don't just, you know, farm fake shit all the time, all of those guys, all they were doing was doing some very simple things. Making stupid polls about like, oh my god guys, how do I kill this vehicle? Or, do you guys like the Tiger? I like the Tiger. Oh, do you think top tier air is trash? I think top tier air is trash. You need to vote on this poll. Because what it does is it gives false engagement, and it means that it pushes your brand out there to other people. YouTube kind of fixed that, so now there's a lot less of it. But that was happening for years, and it sucked. It was awful. Because you just had a bunch of crap everywhere, man. It was very, very annoying. But yeah, at least there's less of it now. So we have Angry Rudolph. Hey TEC, hope all is well. This is kind of a two-part opinion / question. How do you feel about War Thunder possibly adding the F-22 and F-35? I think they should avoid these more modern aircraft due to the fact that people leak things to get a point across, and leaking stuff for those aircraft might hurt the game massively. I don't think Gaijin should be scared of internet warriors. I know for a fact that Gaijin have good relationships with a lot of different people, including governments, when it comes to being able to check out all of these things and making sure what is legit and what isn't legit. I don't think they should be afraid of that fact. The only time to ever worry about something like that is if you know, literally chat to the government officials and they ask you to not do things. But that is never going to happen, because that would be seen as a direct abuse of power by that country. So yeah, that's that would be very surprising if that happens. But no, I don't think they need to be proactive in this stance, because just like everything else in the world, you cannot account for idiots. And idiots will always exist. And if you try and be proactive and deal with idiots before they do idiotic things, you will instead just create something that's designed for the lowest common denominator. And if it's designed for the lowest common denominator, it alienates everybody else who isn't thick as pig shit. So it's usually a bad thing to do. They will also add those vehicles because there are way more people who are interested in seeing them than people who are going to use them for nefarious means. I was also curious if you think Gaijin will give us more customization of the hangar / garage, like the ability to change it to an old holiday one or maybe the OG one. I would like them to. I think that's part of the game which, you know, could get a lot of improvements. I've always asked for hangar customizations or decorations or things in the hangar to remind you of your achievements when it comes to War Thunder. I think that's super important, and I think that's a really good thing to do. But yeah, we've never had anything like that, which is unfortunate, but maybe we will. I think they will start doing that. We've already seen that they are having an effort of trying to improve the profile in the game and improve stuff around that. So since they're doing that, plus a bit more customization stuff with the kill cam things, I think that's like the next step. Like the next step is going to be, you know, improvements to the hangar, whether it be bringing in different ones or whether it be just adding customization options. I think that's the way that it goes. So that'll be good. Hey Alex, nice to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing good. Then we have Ulfred Tierson. Hey TEC, hello. I trust your highly personalized individual reality tunnel is currently in stable order within the fabric constructed of our collected minds. I mean, to be honest, it's been alright this week. Last week was a bit rough. There was a lot of very odd questions on the streams last week. And I think it's just people are getting a bit agitated, right? Like, because there's a culture now around War Thunder of constantly having new things in the game. And since, you know, we've had like no devlogs announced, there's obviously a lot of people who are a bit worried about those things. Like, you know, Chris Nan just put in the chat, when is the next update? Like there's this constant culture of these things happening. Like this week we had the Victory Day events. We had the Japanese Golden Week thing. We had the Victory Day sales. We had the start, or last week we had the start of a new battle pass. We have a new event in the Act 3, the ending of the PLZ event. All of these things are going on, and people still want to know what the next thing is. So it's just one of those where if you don't have something that's there, there's like agitation. And it kind of sucks from my point of view. I don't like it because I don't get why we can't just enjoy stuff that's, you know, there. But yeah. C'est la vie. It's the world that we live in. Anyway, have the damages of the unnecessarily models and modules such as optics and whatnot been in the game in the past? Like broken lenses or something? I feel like they should, like any other model, have an effect if destroyed, and you'd have to repair them for no reason. Otherwise, you just get clowned by them. Say a M3 Stuart Gunner optic absorbing your Storm Tiger rocket, and no negative effect or outcome from an entire shot. I know the radiators were previously just armor you had to repair, also before they made it to damage the engine, then left unrepaired. I think in general, there is a lot of components in the game. Well, there's a decent amount of components you have to repair which take a long time. Like optics is one of them. And I think obviously you have like the commander optics, right, with the commander view. But they definitely talked about adding in effects on optics if they got destroyed. And I think they haven't added them yet, whether because they're obviously bringing in some like new optic stuff that they talked about doing at like high tier, and then they're gonna probably do that. And then also the other thing is it's just bloody annoying. Like imagine your optic gets taken out, right? And like by just an AA, now you just can't see anything. And a lot of AAs have a lot of firepower, which are rapidly firing, you know, all the time. So it's going to be really hard to see what's going on. So yeah, that's kind of annoying and not very fun. So it could be something to do with that. You know, they tested it and they realized, oh, people really don't like this because it's annoying to deal with. Or they're just waiting to do other things before they add it in, kind of like what they did with radiators and also what they did with a bunch of other elements like machine guns. They also fundamentally changed how damage works, right, with the volumetric changes. So previously, you could fire a shot, and since the shell technically was 1 pixel wide, you could get it stuck on whatever module that was there. Now with the volumetric changes, that doesn't happen as much, which is very positive. And it means that you aren't as why did none of my bombs hit? You aren't as beholden to stuff like that, which is very good. Because if you are beholden to stuff like that, it's just annoying to deal with. As you said with the Storm Tiger. So I think in the future they will do something with that. Like they will sort out something that is to do with you know, taking damage to the optics. But I think they're going to be bringing in the other stuff first that they talked about, like bringing in more realistic optics or bringing in newer systems, especially for higher tier vehicles for that. They could add something like hanger customizations to battle pass or events. Yeah, exactly. Like I've always said, imagine if you just got like a room on the hangar and it just had a bunch of banners in it, and each banner was an event that you did. That's all. Nothing crazy. Then we have user. Ash announced he was stepping away from the game. Any comment? Not really. Like, we've had over the years, we've had a lot of creators, you know, like stop making content or move on from content. There's been a lot of creators who've taken breaks, whether it's mental health or whether it's the fact that, you know, they've found other things to do. And, you know, it's part of the life cycle of content creation. You know, sometimes you don't feel like it, other times you do. Other times, you know, you have other people question motives and do all of these things, and it's just part and parcel of it, right? The main thing is hopefully he has, you know, found something that he enjoys doing, or at least found what, you know, he doesn't like doing, so therefore he can have a more positive, you know, bit of fun in what he does, and that's all you need, you know. Ash has been around for a very long time, just like I have been around for a long time, you know, 10 years or whatever it is now, and he's taken extended breaks previously, or talked about how he doesn't want to play the game, or talked about how he doesn't want to, you know, make content around the game. Even earlier on, he made some, like, videos, which I can't remember what they were, but I used to watch them, and they're all about, like, he kind of got annoyed a bit because he would make other content from other games, which obviously was, you know, he found more passionate, but he kind of got a bit annoyed that people wouldn't watch them because of, you know, usually people only want to watch one thing. So yeah, it's one of those which kind of sucks as a creator, but at the same time, you just got to do what you find fun, and if you don't find it fun anymore, then you don't do it. So simple as that. Nothing really else to go from there. I do have an updated one of Q's Raptor. It's in the beginner's guide to War Thunder. I made it last year, I believe, or earlier this year. No, that wasn't him, Holy Ruin. That was another guy. Right. So that's the end of the questions from the tech talk. Is there anything on the stream that you guys want to ask questions on before we wrap this up? I know it's a bit of a short one, but well, I just want to go play Man of War 2. So, like, I'm not gonna lie, simple as. I just wanna get it done and have a bit of fun in the sun while we grind some stuff out. Looking forward to Man of War 2. Also, Warno is technically being released as well. Why will they fix the game? It depends who they ask. Or when will they fix the game? 2032. Thoughts about T1 winning because of Cassante? Well, League of Legends is one of those games which is straight up just designed around broken champions, right? It's whoever can abuse the broken champions the most. And they've added so many busted things over the years. And I've always liked in a MOBA. I've always liked the idea of, instead of having just 3 bans or 5 bans per game, you have bans per series. So the first game, each side bans 3 heroes, or you know, whatever you want to call them, right? Like, obviously I played Dota, so Dota has more bans in it. But they actually went kind of like to the Dota system with League for a little bit. But imagine at the start of the series, okay, each side bans three heroes. And then after the first game, those bans stay in place, and then you can ban 3 more on each side. And then after that game, you can ban 3 more on each side. So at the end of it, you don't have just 3 banned, you actually have 9 banned on each side. So this would massively increase players' player pool, and also at the same time mean that it would be a bit more interesting because you'd see way more characters and understand their abilities more. It also means that you could keep, you know, strategic bans until the end to be able to use on things. Like, I think it would be much more fun. I'd like to see a mechanic where when you point on a vehicle in battle menu, it actually shows you the mods next to the vehicle stats, like what modifications you already have and what you're researching. Oh, that would be cool, yeah. Yeah, or it could actually show you the percentage that you've researched out, right? Do you think they will ever make any changes to APDS or solid shot to make it do more post-pen damage? Unless it's a French vehicle, no. If it's a British vehicle, they'll never make the change. But if it's a French vehicle, yes, they will make it do more damage. That follows in the history of War Thunder. The Aurora might be visible tonight in your area. You should try and see it. Yeah, the hockey's on tonight, so we could maybe double dose. Will Dortmund win the Champions League last time they won was 1997. What's the who are they facing again? I can't even remember. They're facing like some Turkish team, right? Or I don't know. I don't know the strengths of the two teams, so I'll say Dortmund. Oh yeah, they're playing Real Madrid. I don't know. For some reason in my head I was thinking Besiktas. No idea. Real Madrid will win because they'll pay off the referees. Real Madrid is an incredibly scummy team when it comes to finances and also when it comes to paying off officials. So yeah, they'll win. Like the decision made in that Bayern Munich game at the end was hilariously comical. Like it was so bad the refs had to actually come out and apologize, which is ridiculous. But yeah, all you have to do if you think about Real Madrid, you just have to know one thing. Whenever Real Madrid has financial issues, the local government literally bails them out. Like the local government bought the what do you call them? The training area that Real Madrid uses for a ludicrous amount of money, right? Like it was just an insane amount of money that they bought it for, and then they sold it back to them a few years later for peanuts. Because it was a way of injecting cash into the club from the local government. So yeah. I don't put a lot of faith into these places being fair and uncorrupt. I think it's better that he's taking a break and then leaving than what 2900 did. Yeah, that's true. I agree. I mean, if you're getting to a point where a video game is causing you any mental health issues, it is time for you to remove it from your life. Video games are not something which are stable in that way, and also can take you away from things that actually matter in your life. I know a lot of people have talked about the escapism idea about video games, and I highly disagree. I actually think video games are something to do once you have stability in other areas of your life. I think escapism is dangerous and leads people along very, very negative paths. Because what happens is if you stagnate in that escapism, then you lose the grip on what you think is real and what needs to be worked on, and then they don't get worked on, and then you actually get worse, and then the escapism stops working for you. So eventually, you become even more in a worse position, which is why I really don't like that narrative at the end of the day. Not a fan. But yeah, so that's the end of the tech talk. As always, I hope you guys look after yourself. We'll be continuing to stream, and we're going to play some Men of War. Have a bit of fun with it. Now the embargo is up. Oh, what do you think are the best BR ranges for the US ground? I'm trying to find what BR that can be comfortable playing rather than grind. 4-0, 6-7, 8-0, 9-0. Those are four on top of my head. It's very hard to find a lineup which is bad for America. That's the thing. Hey Teddy, nice to see you. Alright, that's the end of the tech talk. Let's move on to the next stuff.